Alright, hello. So I wanted to make a video to analyze a very interesting surface I found outside. I was biking past this bridge a few days ago, and I saw this very cool metal kind of support on the side, on each sides of the bridge. It immediately caught my attention because it had these vines growing from the bottom and they were attached to the metal. And the combination of everything, just the different rusts, different colors of rust, the base color of the metal, and then with the pretty colors of the leaves, and of course like the formation of the leaves, how they have this vertical shape to them. Everything together just looks really cool. So I thought it would be nice to take some pictures and see if I can remake this in 3D, remake this material. And I'm making this video to just break down the references and make some analysis. So let's start with big shapes. Let's get those out of the way. Let's start from big to small. So go from big shapes and then go smaller step by step until you get into these like super tiny detail at the end. But big shapes, well, the first thing I can see is the pillars themselves. They just seem to be repeating rectangles, like vertical rectangles with different height or different depth. So this just seems to be a simple shape, like one rectangle here, one rectangle here, one rectangle here, one rectangle here, and then every other rectangle has a lower or more depth, not lower, more depth. And it just seems to be a simple shape that's beveled or blurred in 3D. Like I'm thinking about how I would make it. It just seems like a rectangle that's tiled and then the edges are beveled. The edges of all the shapes, all the rectangles are beveled at the same time. And I think that would create a nice base for the background, and then you can start setting all the adding all the rust and finer details onto it. The rectangles also do have, like this one, the ones on that are more pushing outwards have this this black line going in the middle of them, which shouldn't be hard at all to make it in 3D. It's literally just a simple vertical black line. But the ones that are a bit more pushing inwards, like this one, for example, this one seems to have a bit of a height variation in itself as well in the middle. Like I feel like this little piece, this little stripe is pushing outwards, and everything else like here and here around it are a bit more in, if that makes sense. So like it has a flat surface of over here, and then it slopes down with the bevel, and then it becomes a flat surface again, and then there is a little slope up, and then down, and then flat again, if that makes sense. Yeah, at least that's how it looks like in the images I took. Could also just be a bit of an illusion. Maybe this is all just flat. Maybe next time I bike past it, I'll have another look. Could just be a trick of the light. Not sure. Oops. Oh, actually, let me disable this so we can Control Z forward in the future. All right. Then obviously there's also this guy. I think I'm gonna use a different color for him, maybe blue. Sure. Yeah, this one doesn't seem too hard to make. It just seems like a extruded circle. Let me try to draw it a little better. Yeah, sure, that'll do. It just seems like a circle shape that you extrude up, and you keep it separate from these other shapes around it. So this in itself could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different shapes. So little circle that's extruded, little rectangle metal piece with some bolts on it, and I'm not sure what this is exactly. This could be a square shaped like a frame around it, kind of like this but smaller, like this shape behind everything, like that, but like a smaller version of it maybe here. And obviously this one is just simple metal square. Looks pretty easy to make. Are there any other big shapes that I'm missing over here? I'm not making any of this on the top, so everything above is unnecessary and not to worry about. Also these bolts, like these, I'm not making them. I don't intend to make them. Oh yeah, there are these. These could be added. These look pretty cool. Also, again, just some circles that are subtracted from the beveled rectangles. Doesn't seem. I'm actually gonna leave this circle around it so I don't forget later. Doesn't seem too difficult. Okay, those are the big shapes. Let's have a look at the leaves. Silhouette wise, they're very vertical. Some of them almost like this is almost straight. This one is pretty straight. Same with this one. But some of them have like a little bit of a wiggle to them, which gives it that natural growth pattern, I guess. I honestly have no idea how to make this, but I think it will be a fun challenge. I'm assuming like one way to try and make this would be to create the stem with maybe a tile generator where the stem itself is made out of tinier pieces that are stacked on top of each other, and then have these pieces branch out. Let me make the brush a little thinner. Yeah, like the stem is coming like this, and then you have these pieces branch out of it, and then somehow find and isolate this tip, like every tip of these tiny branches, and then have the leaves spawn on the tip. So and if you find that if we are able to isolate these peaks, it won't be difficult to have the leaves spawn on them, because you can just use a distribution map and a mask map in the leaves tile sampler or tile generator. But I honestly have no idea how to locate these peaks. Alternatively, I think we can also make the stems with cracks, so cell shapes and the edges between them, and then maybe warp them a little. Make sure they're not as straight looking, and like warp them both quite small, with like warp as in the warp map would have a very tiny scale, so the actual stem itself has some texture, but also another warp that is quite big, so you get these nice little curves and wiggles when they grow from the bottom up. So maybe cracks with 2 different warps would cut it. But then I don't know how to add the secondary, like these branches, the secondary branches that extrude out of the main stem. But it seems like it would be a fun challenge. The leaves themselves, I'm not very worried about. Here's a close-up of one of the leaves. There's another one here. But they have a color variation, certainly. A lot of green, but there is this super nice gradient, which looks so beautiful. Like it goes from really fresh green and slowly gets more and more red, somewhat yellow in between. Some of them have this gradient, some of them don't. All of them have some sort of gradient, of course, but this very linear gradient of green to red is only present in some of them. Like it's a bit present here as well. It's very clear here. But yeah, some of them are just mostly green through and through. At the end, maybe they get a little red. And some of them they look pretty old. They look like fall leaves with their color. But generally, like an observation that can be made is that the higher they are, the more fresh they look. Which makes sense because it's growing from the top, from bottom to top. So the leaves that are at the bottom are older because the plant was here, I don't know, maybe 5 months ago. I don't know how fast these grow. But when it reaches here, it of course makes new baby leaves. So they are very fresh and very healthy. So yeah, generally the top ones are more green. There are exceptions to it. I don't know how like naturally these happen, why these are red. Maybe they're sunburned. But it's a nice detail to not keep it perfect. So not every leaf at the top is green, but some, but mostly they are. However, you can add some red ones to keep it not as consistent and more natural feeling. As for the details of the leaves themselves, they look quite easy to make actually. They just look like cell shapes, and you can draw these veins, like these main veins, manually. I think I can do it manually. There's probably a way to do it procedurally as well. I might have to watch some tutorials for it. But these smaller veins, they just look like a cell map. Like they literally look like a cell map with very low edge thickness. As for the general shape of the leaves, this one looks a bit more challenging because the silhouette is not the most simple shape, honestly. If you want to like keep it as accurate as possible, you get these. It's not just a straight line, as you can see. You come here and then there's a bam. You get these teeth on the edge of the leaves. It looks very interesting to make. I have no idea how to make it though, so I might just use a leaf 3D model and make a depth map out of it, and then use that as a bitmap. But that's not as cool. So I'll definitely look into how to make this shape the bigger shape of the leaf procedurally in Designer. But if I see it's too complicated, I'm probably just gonna get a already finished depth map and drop it as a JPEG or PNG into my substance graph. But it's definitely interesting though. It's probably could be like blended together out of 3 different shapes. So like maybe let me get a yellow brush. Like this is one shape, this is one shape, and then this is the same shape as the first one but mirrored. So these 2 are the same, just mirrored, and this is a unique one. So each shape is made separately and then blended together. It could be that. I don't know. I also feel like radial, there's some radial nodes in Substance Designer. I feel like maybe those could be helpful for making a shape like this, but I haven't messed around with them much. The leaves themselves also have color variation, of course, as we previously discussed, but this is a nice closer look at that color variation. It's not just, so when you look from the, take a step back, when you take a step back and look at the bigger image, of course you see the general gradient of green to red, and here as well you can see the green to red. But when you look a bit closer, you actually see each individual leaf has its own color gradient. The parts of the cell that are closer, let me switch to blue. Parts of the cell that are closer to the stem are greener, and the further away you are from the stem, the more red it gets. And same here. You see how there's a very clear glow of very healthy green right next to the main vein, but then this area in between, it has a bit of a more like lower value, lower brightness green, because it's a bit further away from the leaf, from the vein itself. I don't know what's the biological reason this happens, but it is pretty cool. It's more noticeable in the red ones, because here you have the contrast of red and green, and you don't really have that in the healthy leaves and in the fresh leaves. It's just green on top of green with different brightness, but it's still there. It's the same concept, it's just more visible here. Also, the edges of the leaf, of each leaf, has its own little color. I honestly don't know what this color is. It's very pinkish, kinda. Like you can even see some purple at the very tips, at the very ends of each tip. And it also looks like quite noisy. Like I feel like this could also be some detail, not just color but actual height detail for each leaf. Maybe the edges are a bit slope blurred or warped a little bit, but it does definitely have some more noise to it, and a separate color, nice reddish pink, reddish purple pink kind of color. Some of the leaves have holes in them. This is a very cool detail. So they're not clean, of course. They also have this pollen-like dust on them, which is very fine detail. So I don't know how doable it is to actually add that in Substance without having to bump up the graph to some insanely high resolution, but it is there. So these details are nice to keep in mind before starting to make the actual thing. And some of the baby leaves are very shiny and very red. So yeah, that's also something else to keep in mind. And oh, this is actually very interesting. So I think they actually start red as a baby and then they turn green, because it seems like they're turning green from the tips. Okay, that's actually very interesting. So this could be a completely different version of the leaf, because if we were to make the leaf from scratch in Designer, we would make maybe 5-6 different leaves, and then tile them on the stems. We could have like a version for the green ones, a version for the red ones, maybe a version here where it's very desaturated, every color is very desaturated, a version with some holes in it, and also some baby leaves where they're very shiny. I don't know why they're shiny, but could be a different it could add a lot of variation to the final results, having these very different leaves pop in there every now and then. But it should be like, one important thing is that those baby leaves only appear at the top, because of course they're the newest leaves, so they shouldn't spawn all the way at the bottom or in the middle or anywhere, only at the top. Alright, that's it for the leaves. The rust. Last thing left is the rust itself. It's a very cool looking rust, honestly. One of the coolest rust I've seen. There is a very interesting color variation. From what I see, this is, let me see, do we have like an overview image? I think this could be, maybe here, yeah, this is better. This is a nice overview. I think the whole metal, like the entire material, has 3 layers of rust, or more like 3 layers of damage and detail applied to it. There's this blue stuff. I shouldn't draw with blue on blue. There. This blue stuff, I think this is the healthy material. I think this is the healthy metal. So perhaps before this metal started rusting like this, it looked like this. It was this very nice, like kind of alien looking. Reminds me of like alien ships. This blue for some reason. This nice blue, and then you layer on top of that this rust and this rust. So the very saturated yellow is a different rust, and this light brown one is a different rust as well on its own. But let's keep it at the blue metal for now. It looks obviously more metallic than the other areas on its side, on both of its sides. Way more shiny. It looks like it has this vertical. It has this vertical pattern to it. It's like every shine is so vertical. You see how these white spots, they're all vertical, and they're also quite squarish. It looks like some sort of vertical noise that's been slope blurred to a very slight amount, just to get these square shapes out of it. It almost looks like crystals, honestly, like cave crystals. I feel like this formation can be seen in crystals reference. In some crystals where quartz. I don't think I'm finding the things I actually want, like the references I actually want, but like it reminds me of something like this when I look closely at it. It's very like high noise, but also has some structure to it. Very rigid edges. Also very high intensity. Like quite high intensity, the metal noise. There is a different version of this blue in these tiny blue spots. Because obviously this and this are the same. The rust is just consuming from left to right. So it's consumed more here where you can't even see the blue metal, and it hasn't gotten to this area yet. Or maybe it got there and then it got removed. But the intensity of the rust increases the more you move to the left. So that causes these not white, but blue spots that look like they're just removed from the rust, just clean subtract. So the blue metal is gradually turning smaller and smaller when you go here. Like see, this is a very tiny blue spot. Same with this, same with this. But here it gets a little bigger. Here it's even bigger. And one more thing that happens is that the closer you get to the main metal itself, the main metallic area itself, the more of these horizontal long stripes of removed rust you get. There's another one here, one more here, one more here. This is a cool one. So I think in general these blue dots, blue spots are very horizontal. Like their width is bigger than their height, right? And it gets shorter. They get shorter and shorter when they move to the left. I think if I were to make this, I would make this base, this big chunk of fresh metal, and this one as well, in one node, like separately from the dots and the stripes over here. I would make a mask for these probably separately, and then add it onto the main metal. Okay, that's it for the blue metal. The next layer I want to talk about is this very saturated yellow. It looks corrupted, honestly. It looks very apocalyptic, I guess. Like this is reminding me of The Last of Us. It's very blobby. This noise is very blobby. You get all these kind of fatty, chunky blobs of rust. And it's also very vertical again. There's always this verticality to this entire material, except this area, which you get this horizontal break. And this pattern that we had here, where the rust gets stronger left to right, appears here as well, except it's mirrored. The rust is getting stronger from right to left. This seems like this rust is made out of 3 different colors. There's the yellow itself, and then there's this very dark color, and then there's some brown over here as well. And sometimes they get mixed. Like here you can see both the brown and the black. It's somewhere here as well. You can just see them kind of everywhere. But there are areas where there are more brown than black, and then more black than brown. I don't know which noise would be good for this one. It honestly looks like it looks inflated. It looks like it's these dots, these blobs look like inflated spots. So maybe some black and white mask, like black and white dots that are slope blurred or just blurred to inflate each dot separately, and then moved around with some warp or directional warp or whatever to get these distorted shapes out of them. That could be one way to make it. Let's move to the last bit of the rust. It's this one, the light brown rust. It honestly looks like wood. Like if I didn't know this is a metal wall, at first glance I can see myself thinking, oh, that's wood, because it has like kind of a bark pattern to it, like different chunks of bark stacked on top of each other. But of course it's not wood. It looks like a very cloudy noise. There is another reference here, yeah, of it. It honestly looks very pillowy. Because it's very cloudy and very the cloudiness is more visible here in this reference, but I feel like here you can feel the pillowiness of it a bit more. Of course it's still very rough, like to touch, but the visuals sometimes look very soft. Like it looks like it would be a soft material to touch in some areas. But it honestly looks like a blurred basic noise. There are these vertical lines though, which horizontal lines, which I think are a huge factor that contribute to the bark looking feel of it. So it would be interesting to see how we would add that. And these spots, I don't think they belong to this rust. I think they just belong to this blue metal that we discussed earlier. So I wouldn't add these spots in this rust. I would just make them here. And I think that's it for now. Have I missed anything else? Let's see. Oh yeah, this is something nice to look at actually. I think this would be a nice last point to mention. This, of course, you have this nice vertical area where the metal is safe for now, but there are areas where it's like the future of this. You know, like in the future, this will turn into this. You know, it's completely taken over, not completely, but almost completely taken over. And it turns from this nice, healthy vertical area into these chunks, like these very separated chunks of healthy metal that are very cracked. This cracking I just noticed, can it be seen anywhere else? There is some here. I guess they're not really cracks, they're leaks, like leaking rust. cracks to be found. I'm not finding it anywhere else. Like, I'm finding it here, but these are chunks. Oh, there's some here. So yeah, it could be maybe some areas where the rust is taking over these healthy metal parts, we can have some cracks to make it look more dramatic. So yeah, I think that's it. These, honestly, these themselves, they look like some basic cells that are just deformed and slope blurred and warped, and then maybe mixed with another noise to just remove these bits out of them, like give them some detail so they're not just one huge silhouette filled with just full white color, and then they're just subtracted from the yellow rust or the brown rust. And I think that's it. Yeah, I'm not seeing much more. This is my first time really observing the material to this depth though, so I could be missing some stuff. I'm not sure. But I think that's it for now. Alright. Let's see if we can make it in 3D. Take care and goodbye for now.